How's prep for Free Comic Book Day been going, Joe?
uh, we're not nearly done yet,
Oh,
but
no.
but we will be ready. We'll be ready. We always are. Um, just a lot of moving parts. Yeah, we've besides what we do here, we also deal with 23 branches of the local library system.
Oh, wow.
And so the number of pallets of comics for this event is climbing every year. But hey, yeah, it's looking good. There's a lot of good comics, and I have no idea what to expect crowd wise, but I think people are ready for a free comic book day that actually feels like that.
Outside of the pandemic, yeah, I think all the stores should be pretty much big hits.
I would hope. There's still, you know, there's still that ugly bug that's hanging out there for some people. So I'm hoping that people are smart enough that if they don't feel well, that they can stay away
Mm-hmm.
and just keep it safe for everybody. But we're going to do what we can to even make that better. So yeah, this is a different deal. Last August, everybody was standing in line in masks, and I don't think we're going to have that this time. Um, but if people are more comfortable that way, I'm cool with them coming in looking, like Spider-Man if they want to be that masked up.
I hope you do have a cosplay going on this weekend.
Our local cosplay group is pretty. They're awesome. They always show up for Free Comic Book Day. Now, that being said, I leave it to them. I have not heard from them how many will be here or who's going to be here, but it always turns out to be a surprise which characters are going to show up. So, looking forward to it. And we've got a cosplay photo shoot at 11:30 tomorrow.
Oh, there's a good reason to show up early.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the whole deal is, um, I the cosplay people are really good about entertaining people in line, and I want to make sure that the wait in line, if there is any kind of a long one, is at least entertaining. So we've always got stuff going on and trying to keep people engaged. Hopefully some of the other merchants in the shopping center will do some things. I know Trader Joe's is going to have a refreshment stand outside, and some of their staff will be in costume. It's the Chamber of Commerce is going to be here shooting some video. There's all kinds of things going on, and we never know if what media is going to show up, if any. So it's possible. We've had TV stations out here and newspapers and whatnot. But it's every one of these is its own beast and its own surprise. So that's part of what makes it fun, not just for all the people coming in, but for us as well.
How long have you been doing Free Comic Book Day for?
Since the very beginning.
Since the very beginning.
Oh,
yeah.
nice.
Yep. It started here.
Oh.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm the founder of the event. So, it's a good show for us. And I'm really appreciative of all the work other retailers have done to put a really good effort into this thing. And there are retailers all over the world that participate in this. And one of my favorite things is to hear from retailers all over after the event, letting me know what they liked, and even letting me know what they didn't like about the event or the comics or any part of it. Giving me their feedback. So in years past, I've heard from pretty much all over the world, from Europe, from Southeast Asia, from Australia to South Africa, the UK, South America. I mean, it's pretty cool to get a little bit of that feedback.
Do you remember what was the first country that did it outside the United States?
My guess would be Canada, just because Diamond was servicing Canada at that point. Canada, Mexico, probably, but through Diamond UK, which has been around longer than Free Comic Book Day has, that also reaches into England and Ireland and I think parts of mainland Europe too.
That is amazing.
There is a rumor. So before I get to that, let me figure this out. The first Free Comic Book Day coincided with the first Spider-Man movie.
Right.
And there is a rumor going around that it was Jim Valentino of Image Comics that suggested that it occur around the time of the Spider-Man movie.
Okay. So just to give you the story, when I originally proposed Free Comic Book Day in the pages of an industry trade magazine called Comics and Games Retailer, I made sure to get feedback in when that article was printed in the magazine from Diamond Comics, and hopefully Diamond would have talked to some of their major suppliers at that point. Well, so Diamond gives it the big thumbs up, and we set up a meeting, and that meeting was 3 weeks after 9/11. And it was the first flight out of New York for publishers and for some of the people who were in that meeting. It was a really fragile time in our nation's history, really. But there was a spirit of cooperation in that meeting that was unsurpassed. I had been a part of industry meetings where one publisher would wag a finger at the other saying, your lawyer's got to talk to my lawyer and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. And, we tried to create a sort of a milk advisory board for comics in the 80s. And that's where that whole thing fell apart. But when we had the meeting at a convention in Vegas 3 weeks after 9/11, sitting around the table were reps from the large publishers, Marvel, DC, Image, Dark Horse, and reps from the Comics Buyer's Guide. Maggie Thompson was in the room, and reps from Diamond Comic Distributors, and then me representing sort of the retail side of things. And when it came time to say, are we going to do this? I'd never seen a spirit of cooperation like we had back then. And everyone just said, yeah, this is something we have to do. It makes sense. So then the discussion was, well, when do we do it? And my original thought was, hey, I was stealing this from Baskin Robbins anyway, and they did their scoop night, I think, in early April. And I said, that's a pretty good time to do something like this because the weather isn't too bad and people are, kids are still in school. People are kind of still a little bit closer to home than they would be during the summer. So why don't we do like mid-April? And then Jim Valentino was the one who said, we have this Spider-Man movie coming up. Why don't we do it that weekend? And, I'm not sure that it was a unanimous thing at that point. For obvious reasons, but that was the date that was decided on, and yeah, it was Jim who made that suggestion. But let me be really clear: this isn't a movie promotion. This is an event to bring people to local comic shops and to show them the amazing stuff going on in comics. It's not about what's happening on Netflix or what Disney Plus has this week or what's on the big screen. It's really about what's going on in comics. And I am very happy that Hollywood has seen fit to know that this is a really great day to also debut a big movie.
True, I feel that completely because it seems every year there's always a big movie right around within a few days of Free Comic Book Day.
It hasn't always been that way. There are a few years where there was not a movie debuting this weekend. The thing is, if you go back to the beginning of when this all started, in the first year was 2002. Well, Memorial Day weekend was the launch of the summer movie season. It wasn't the first weekend in May, but Spider-Man they didn't know how this thing was going to be responded to. So rather than take the chance that it would be put into the Memorial Day weekend, which is if you don't do spectacularly at the box office, you're seen as a failure. They decided to release. Sony decided to release it early, before the Memorial Day weekend, and that worked out really well. And but over a few years past that, there were years where there was not a comics related movie coming out that weekend. And in fact, there's one year where when Free Comic Book Day was in July rather than the first Saturday in May. That's another story.
Can we hear that story?
No, was that in 20?
You want to hear that story? Okay. Hang on a sec.
File the number ones or not?
Yeah, put them.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, you want the story?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Free Comic Book Day is, it's a couple of years old by that point, and things are going pretty good. I think it's 2005. Marvel has a Hulk movie through, not through Marvel Studios, but was it a Paramount or I forget the studio that released it. The Ang Lee Hulk movie that was due to debut on the 4th of July weekend, and so Marvel Comics wanted Free Comic Book Day on that weekend to open with the Hulk movie. And right there, that'll tell you something about how important Free Comic Book Day is to Marvel's business, or at least how important it was back then. So they asked me, and I said, you know what? It really makes sense to stick on the first Saturday in May. And the pressure from Marvel was to put it in July. So what Diamond did is they decided to put it up to a vote, have the retailers vote for which day. And I gave the pro first Saturday in May approach, and Joe Quesada was the one who pitched the July 4th weekend. And I would say that Joe Quesada is a little bit better known than Joe Field.
Yeah.
And he won the vote. But after that, it was resounding to move it back to May because July was just not a good spot to be in. For some of the reasons I mentioned earlier, more people are more scattered during the summer. The college kids aren't close to campus. The high schoolers are going off and doing whatever they're going to do. It's miserably hot in good chunks of the United States and other parts of the world. So the overwhelming response was move it back to the first Saturday in May, which is where it's been, except for these last couple of COVID years.
Yeah, May is just also, I believe, better wise too across the country.
Well, there's a lot going on the first Saturday in May. I mean, I have retailers in Kentucky who aren't real happy with me because it's Derby weekend. For some people it's prom weekend. For others, it's First Communion weekend or Little League baseball, or there's a lot of stuff. Or weddings. Weddings are big in May, so there's a lot of stuff going on, and all of maybe some people don't care about some of those things, but there's somebody who cares about at least one of them. And so it's there's no date that's perfect, but we found the most perfect date we could for it, and we've stuck with it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Absolutely. Just wanted to confirm, Kim, can you hear us? Are you there?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome.
Hi, Kim.
What? I'm on now?
Awesome. Welcome.
I threw my phone against the wall. Maybe that's the reason.
That's the way.
Sorry, I'm late to the party, guys.
Whatever. Right.
It's only been about 30 years since I've talked to Kim.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's been a while. You look young still. At least your picture. Is that an old picture or what?
I if I look young, it must be.
Kim, I was there when he took it. It was yesterday.
Okay.
Oh yeah, here we are.
So you guys are talking about Free Comic Book Day, huh?
That
Yes,
seems
sir.
to be the subject of the hour.
Nice. It's a great subject. Great job, Joe. That was an awesome idea you had.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem.
It wouldn't. I have to say this every time someone gives me a compliment. It would not work if not for the effort of so many people throughout the comics business, including retailers and publishers, and guys working in the shops, the retail staff and distributors.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's definitely a team comics effort.
Yeah, I don't remember what year you started. I think that was about the time I closed the comic store down just to concentrate on toys.
It was.
I think
2002
I think
was
I did
the
a
first year.
2002.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about the time I closed down the retail store. Interesting. That seems like it's not that long ago. You know what I mean?
It's kind of a blur.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? A lot of fun along the way, though, huh?
Yeah, it's been a pretty interesting ride, that's for sure. I think
Cool, very cool.
the first year we had two guests with us, inker Mick Gray and a local small press publisher named Jason Doobie, and I think the second year Jim Lee was here for it. So
Nice.
and we've had just a lot of good guests over the years, and Jim's an old friend, and he's always been really good to me. So I am very appreciative of all he's done. But I mean, it's been a good ride. It's here's the deal about Free Comic Book Day. Everybody goes, "Oh, it's a sales promotion, right?" And I went, that's kind of how it started. It is really to do something to invite people into shops because good things were going on in comics at the time, but nobody really knew about it. So we needed an invitation kind of thing to get people into stores. And so it was a sales promotion, but now it's become sort of this geek holiday. It's really a pop culture holiday. And that kind of blows my mind a little bit. It's
Not only that, Joe, but the significance to it is, I mean, it's getting a lot of the younger generation into new comics and new stories and things like that. I have 4 children, and they look forward to going to see what books they want to go through every year. I mean, they have different things, but I mean, just Free Comic Book Day, just it introduces them to new stories without having them to take money out of their piggy banks is a good way to put it.
Well, that was the idea. The idea was, let's have everybody in the industry put our best foot forward and see what we can do about bringing more people in. And every year we have new people coming to the shop who make their first entry into the store on Free Comic Book Day and enjoy it so much that they're back the next week and the next week after that. So that to that end, it's worked really well as a sales promotion. But it's also a way of sort of just, inviting people to be a part of the family too.
Okay, and I mean, throughout the years for you and Free Comic Book Day, I mean, who's been your biggest supporters? With just no questions asked, just right away, you're ready to help.
Give me a little bit more there. What are you looking for? The people who've helped me the most through this. Well, I would say right now, although they may not be having the best time of it, I think the team at Diamond Comics has been really solid. I think they've been decent shepherds of what this thing is all about. And can we make it bigger and better every year? I think we can, but I also think that without their sort of steady hand over the years, this might have just fallen apart.
Understood. And Kim, let me ask you: when you were running the Spider's Web, your shop, what did you do? Any type of promotions or anything like that that stick out to you in significance that you remember?
Well, promotions. I mean, obviously, with my connection with Todd, my most effective way to try and reach new audiences was through shows, store appearances, that sort of thing. And that was kind of where I kind of had an, and I was lucky that way. And, having taught his family for 45 years now, he was more like a brother to me than anything else. And he was always really, really gracious about, coming and doing store appearances. I put on a couple of shows. He brought some of the image guys in with him and stuff. And it was just a lot of fun back then. And so it was very exciting, seeing young kids there, everybody from the age of 8 to, 75 in these shows. And it was just a fun time. And so that was kind of my way to not only promote my shop, but try and promote comic books as well. And obviously Todd was a big part of that.
That makes sense. Absolutely. And I mean, I know you mentioned you had 2 surgeries prior. Baseball, were they baseball related, or did they just stop you from continuing to play baseball?
No, they were baseball related. I tore my elbow up my sophomore year of college, and 3-4 years later, I'd had 3 operations, two essentially Tommy John surgeries, and then a third one. So I was done. Todd still kept playing. So, I mean, I think that's what a lot of people didn't understand. I've known Todd since we were 14 years old. It's not like, I bugged him as a comic book retailer to come in and help me out. We're basically brothers and have been for 40 years. So, a lot of great memories. I mean, even prior to comics, I got some stories I could tell you pre-comic book days that, are actually kind of funny. I mean, we actually roomed together in college. Let's see, it would have been my sophomore year, his sophomore year in Spokane. And, I was out socializing, partying, doing all the things most sophomores in college do. And he'd sit in his room and draw, comic book characters all day and all night. You couldn't drag him out of the room. And, I remember him talking about how he wanted to be a comic book artist. And I just kind of like, yeah, okay, Todd, whatever you say. So I think he kind of proved me wrong. So, but yeah, I got, obviously I've known him since I was a kid, so that I got a lot of stories that he would never share that I could. So
please share. I mean, I do have I have one question for you in terms of Todd, because he's always in here talking about how he's such a fast runner. Is he really that fast at running?
You know what? He was the fastest Caucasian I've ever seen. Seriously, his first to third was incredible. I mean, he wasn't lying. He could run.
Okay, first to third. I like that.
No, seriously, he was. He could run. He probably, I don't know. He'd probably tear something now, but he could probably still run. So.
And what position did you play?
Did he play?
Well, you.
I was a catcher. Todd was a center fielder.
Okay.
Joe, didn't you play center as a distributor versus artist games?
So yeah, back in the late '80s, early '90s at San Diego Comic-Con, there was a industry softball game, and it was distributors versus publishers. And so as a retailer, I was on the distributor side, and I played center field. And I'm completely right-handed, and Todd played center field for the publishers, and Todd's left-handed. And, he said, "Hey, can I use your glove?" I went, "Yeah, but you're left-handed." He goes, "Doesn't matter." And, he said, "Just leave it out here at the end of the inning." I went, "Okay, fine." And he pretty much played that game with the wrong mitt on, with the mitt on his opposite hand, and still did well. And I probably feebly got through that game without getting injured, and was really happy about it.
So Todd doesn't just talk the talk; he walks the walk. Understood.
Well, I don't know. Kim, is he really that good of a baseball player?
Yeah, I mean, he was fast. You can't, speed never takes a day off. So, that was always his strength. he played. I mean, we played like together when we were like 15, 16, and my dad was actually the coach at the time. And Todd always fancied himself as a power hitter, which he really wasn't. And if he would have just learned to slap and run, he probably would have, he probably would have been drafted or signed, because I mean, you just can't teach his kind of speed. And he was a great outfielder. So, but he always wanted to pull the ball, and just Todd's stubborn. I think anybody in comic books knows that he does things his own way. So he's done it his whole life, and that's a strength and a weakness. So.
I think that competitive spirit, though, has really served him well in the comics and toy business.
Absolutely. He doesn't take no for an answer. I mean, that's his greatest strength. Is somebody says he can't do something, he's going to prove you wrong. Even if he doesn't even really want to do it, he's still going to prove you wrong. And that's something that's definitely a strength, and definitely something he has always done ever since he was a kid.
So are you guys saying that's the secret to getting to Todd's good graces? It's just when he says no, just ignore him and do it anyways?
He'll respect you for it. I mean, for example, I mean, I'm sure he's told this story at a number of conventions, and most of the guys that are listening have probably heard it, but he had a heck of a time breaking into comics. I mean, this was still in our college years, and we were going to school at Eastern Washington University at the time, and he was getting ready to graduate with a, graphic arts degree that he really didn't want to use. And he kept sending samples to Marvel, DC, whoever would take them, and he even bum money off my dad, his dad, whoever would give him money to go to New York a few times to follow up. and nobody would give him a job. And he just wouldn't take no for. He just kept going and going and going until, I forget what happened. Somebody was doing a book, and he was sitting in the editor's office, and somebody died, and they went, well, here you go, kid, here's your chance. And that's, sort of, a bridge version of how he broke into comic books, which you look back on it now and you just go, wow, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So, you just got to have the perseverance no matter what it is, whether you want to be an artist, whether, whatever it is you want to do in life, that don't take no for an answer if that's what you want, and just keep working it.
Wise words.
I even remember when when Spawn wasn't even anything real, Todd at the time was living up in New Westminster, BC. I'm in the Seattle area, so we were, a couple hours apart. And I'd go up there and do baseball and hockey card shows, because I used to sell a ton of hockey cards. And we'd go up there, and there'd be the odd comic book guy there, and Todd would hand out flyers with pictures of Spawn on it. And, nobody even knew what this thing was. I mean, just they knew who Todd was, obviously, but he hadn't really revealed who this character Spawn was, this, that, and the other thing. And I just remember at the time going, wow, you're really going to go out on your own. And this was long before he made that decision with the other guys to start Image. So it was, that was an interesting time watching Image just explode the way they did. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah. Well, Image carried for the first year. They were the number one selling comic books?
Yeah, what was there, 7 or 8 different guys that, they were 1, 2, the top 8, literally. Yeah, it was insane. I remember putting on a show down in Portland, and I knew it was going to be a pretty big show, a lot of people, because it was right at the, the first year that they were actually, they were rock stars. They were like the Beatles, basically, of comic books. And so I found this old, it was an old mall, of all things. It had been closed down for years, and so I contacted the number and said, look, here's what I want to do. Rent me a space for a day. So I got this great big old, I don't know what it was, a Bon Marché or something store at one time that was huge. I mean, there was nothing inside. The carpet was a joke, but it was big enough. And what I did was, it was free to get in, and this is a huge mistake on my part. It was free to get into the show, but you could buy tickets to get autographs. It was a bucket ticket. So you could buy up to 5 tickets. It was $1 a ticket. Well, I mean, geez Louise. I mean, people were buying them and reselling them. And I mean, it was ridiculous. And the lineups obviously were so long, especially I remember specifically for Jim Lee and Todd. And I remember at one point they were getting a little bit rowdy, and Jim Lee jumped out from behind and took a marker and started drawing a Wolverine on the floor on the carpet. and just to kind of give people something to look at while they were, it was crazy. And then he walked away, went back and started signing more books. And people were taking out box knives and cutting up the Wolverine off the ground. It's like, good thing this isn't good carpet.
Oh man!
Wow.
So somebody out there's got an original Jim Lee Wolverine sketch on some old beat up carpet from Portland. So, but yeah, those were fun times. There's a lot of fun times.
See, I remember the first time I met Todd was a couple of years, 3 years or 4 years before Image, when I was helping to put on WonderCon in Oakland. And we had the Spider-Man bachelor party at our convention. And that was right around the time that Todd had gotten the Amazing Spider-Man gig after coming over from DC and doing the Coyote stuff, I think. But I can remember sitting down with him at that show and talking to him, just, having a nice conversation for 15 or 20 minutes, and nobody was hounding him. But then the next year, Spider-Man and, all of that stuff starts happening. And he's got a line around the block. And then when the Image stuff hit, it was like, the line extended all the way to the next county. It was pretty remarkable to see that from before things went crazy to that insane period of the 90s. It was really cool to just be a part of that.
Well, it's funny you talk back to the days with Spider-Man and Spawn first coming aboard, and when Todd started Spider-Man, that was just after I started my shop, I think in December '89. And I remember I had a lady from our local high school. We had two local high schools here in Puyallup, the town I live in. Really nice lady, was the art teacher at one of the schools. Wanted to put kids' artwork up in our shop, and I thought, that's kind of cool. So we had all this artwork up. Anyway, make a long story short, I started thinking about it, and I said to Todd, I really like to do something for the two schools. It serves two purposes. It'll maybe promote the shop a little bit, and it'll also help a kid that's an artist. And so the whole premise around the autograph comic thing, which I think Omar gave me a plug on that I started it, and I have to apologize because there was no one involved in that. And what we did is when we did the Spider-Man books, I think the cover price was $1.75 at the time or something, or $2, and we charged a quarter over cover for the autograph. And the quarter, I kept track of how many books we sold, went to fund 2 art scholarships, one for each school. And we were able to do that for 4 years. So not only did we sell them cheap, and really I was just looking to get cover price and doing a little bit of promoting and setting up a couple art scholarships. And, unfortunately, it kind of exploded from there that, then it became like a moneymaker for everybody, which wasn't my intent by doing what we did. And then the topic of the letter of authenticity came up. Excuse me, I got a bit of a cold. And I had no idea even what that was. It's like, back then, Joe, I think you could back me up. There was no such thing. I had no clue what the people were even talking about. But I'd have people, send me or phone me and say, does this come with a letter of authenticity? And I didn't want to come across like an idiot, like I didn't know what that was. And I said, yeah, we'll take care of it. So, I think Omar, you put a picture of it up there. It's a joke. It's just like, it's literally a letter explaining what it is. And so, yeah, that whole thing was ridiculous. I remember I wanted to cut it off at a certain point, and Todd said, no, just keep going. I think it was partly ego on his part, seeing all these people wanting his signature. We ended up meeting halfway in Bellingham, up north, just south of the border, and spent a night and a half at the hotel while he signed up all these books. So I had to rent this trailer and the whole 9 yards to get it done and get them all mailed out and stuff. And so, yeah, it was crazy. It was a crazy time. And again, I feel bad that, people are now paying, I don't know what they paid. Even back then it was $10, $20, $30 for an autographed book. When if I'm given any kind of credit at all, which I don't deserve for starting that, I apologize to all the comic people out there that are buying the comics, because it wasn't our intent to have that happen.
Well, Kim, let me throw something in here, and I think something I've learned over the years of doing this is that the specialty market makes the market, and then the mass market runs away with it. And and what the autograph thing was kind of a weird deal. When I remember buying some of the signed Todd Spider-Man #1s from you, and then I was helping Jim Lee with his. He had a sub company called Comics Express, and so I helped him do some sales on signed copies of X-Men 1 and Whilce Portacio signed Uncanny X-Men 281. And so, we sold a whole bunch of copies of those, and those came with like little photos of the guys in the studio saying that it was an authentic deal. But I remember the spider bug on the back of Spider-Man #1 and buying a bunch of those things. And that was all kind of nice and innocent. And then, Marvel did those, the milestone editions, the reprints, the silver bordered reprints of X-Men 1 and a number of their titles. And a friend of mine who's still in business, Bob Borden, came to me and he said, "Hey, Stan Lee, do you think maybe you could get Stan Lee to agree to do some autographs for me on those milestone editions?" And I said, "Well, what are you paying?" He said, $1 an autograph. I went, "Yeah, how many do you want?" He goes, "I want 10,000 of them." I went, "I think we can do this." So I called Stan, and Stan said, "I'm going to make $10,000 by signing my name." And yeah, he said, "Okay, send the books. I'll take care of it." And and then it just kind of went from there. But that the market, the mass market that took off with it was that shortly after that, you had Home Shopping Network and QVC, and they were seeing some of the stuff that was going on. And, I think Nick Barucci was a part of some of that. And they just saw an opportunity to be a lot wider about turning comic books into limited edition collectibles. And, it's been good. It's been bad. Whatever. I'm happy to have survived through all of that. But I would never, try to take credit or blame for doing any of that. Making the market for certificates of authenticity, because like you, Kim, it's like I don't remember people asking for that sort of thing. But I guess it was something that came over from like from other collectibles markets into the comics market, and whatever. I'd rather just sit down and read a comic.
Exactly. And I mean, again, it's, it's like I try and tell people, to me, a certificate of authenticity means nothing. Because if I'm a shyster, if I can fake a signature, I can sure as heck fake a letter of authenticity to go with it.
That's absolutely true.
And that's what I tried to tell people a lot of times, that don't put any stock in that, because it means nothing. I mean, I could have signed Todd's name 1,000, 100,000 times, and who would ever question it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, not that I would ever do anything like that, but I mean, obviously, I could probably get away with it and give a letter of authenticity with it. Nobody know any difference.
I'm sure there are signed collectibles out there that were not signed by the person they were supposed to be.
Oh, absolutely, there is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it out there. So yeah.
Yep.
So that part of it, I'm glad, is kind of. It sounds like it's not quite as feverish as it used to be. I mean, it's still out there, but not to the same extent, I don't think.
Well, I mean, you got CGC doing signature authentication, and we have, people show up to signings and go, "Hey, where's my authenticator?" And it's like, dude, we're here to enjoy the comic. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I agree with you guys. But then you do have that side of where it's like, well, hey, I got something you don't have, and it's you're always gonna have that when it comes to some of that collecting aspect of things too, So, if somebody had something that there's maybe only 5,000 of, for example, just a Spider-Man signature or something like that, it adds that level of haha, I got something you don't have, and they want it. It's kind of simple as that with some of these things. And then
I definitely understand people wanting stuff. That's part of what my business is built on. But the other part of it is we have what the internet has done is it's turned everyone into a dealer.
Yep.
And so now you've got people going up to artists at conventions and, do you do free sketches? Oh, yeah, I've got a free sketch. And then 5 minutes later, it's up on eBay. And prior, just as eBay was getting started, I had a few dealings with Don Rosa, who was a Uncle Scrooge artist for Disney Comics for a long time and really highly revered in the rest of the world. But, not a lot of people really come out to his signings in the U.S., but they put him up in the presidential suites of hotels in Europe. But what would happen is people would go to his table at a convention, and maybe he'd do a nice color deal for them for $10, and they were getting $200 and $300 on eBay. Mm-hmm. So he would put them through sort of a litmus test of who's your favorite character in the Scrooge universe and why. And if they couldn't come up with an answer, they didn't get a sketch.
Testing their knowledge. I like that.
It's and that'd be fun in a lot of aspects, I like that though. That's pretty interesting.
Well, it's a that some people would call that gatekeeping, but what it is, it's just protecting himself to a degree. And I really think that there's too much of that flipper mentality going on that's still very prevalent today.
Well, there's a lot of it goes on. I mean, where it's I guess shown the most is baseball, where and even as of recent right now, where there's a lot of players where they're like posting on their social medias, like, the same pictures of the same people waiting outside of the buses, like, enough is enough, like give us some time to breathe. We keep signing these things and all you're doing is putting it online right away, 30 minutes later to sell it. So I do agree with you in that aspect of things of it as well. You got to watch where that's going with things.
When everybody's in business for themselves, it's hard to get away from some of that stuff. But I'm still much happier to deal with the people who are in it because they love it.
Yeah,
I agree 100%.
So, Liam Sharp, Joe, is a friend of your store, and frequents visit your store. I've been there once or twice with Liam, and he's he's my number one favorite artist. So, my question to you and Kim is: Joe's not actually Todd's not here, fortunately. So, and this is a safe place. So, who's your guys' favorite artist?
Mine?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Joe. You probably have. I'm gonna have to think about that for a bit here.
It's a long list. I really try not to make stratified lists of things that have to do with art, because there are different ways that art reaches me and moves me. So, if I mention some artists and don't mention others, it's not because I don't love them. It's just because maybe I'm not fully thinking at the moment. But my taste is all over the map. I'll tell you my story with Liam is that a mutual friend of ours who is an original art collector. He called me one day, and this is about 18 years ago now. And he said, "Hey, you want to come over to the house for barbecue later on for dinner?" I went, "Sure. What's going on?" He said, "Well, I think there's somebody here you're going to want to meet." And I said, "Oh, tell me who." And if you're thinking the answer is Liam Sharp, that's not what he said. He said, "I've got Roger Dean coming to my house."
Ooh.
And if you guys know who Roger Dean is, he's designed all kinds of album covers. He's a British artist who has, done all kinds of cool stuff that I'm into. James Cameron pretty much ripped him off with all the background designs in Avatar. Let's put it that way. Oh yeah, you want me to come over to have dinner with you and Roger Dean? He goes, yeah. And then there's another artist coming too, and his name is Liam Sharp. I go, oh, I know Liam's stuff. I've followed his stuff for years. And that dinner became me on one side of the table and my friend Steve on the other side. And in between us were Roger and Liam. And it became a couple of hours of listening to them talk about where their inspiration comes from, who their favorite artists were, what they're working on, and how they get moved to do the stuff that they do. And it was like this, I got to be a fly on the wall listening to two brilliant artists talk about their craft and talk about it from their heart. And it was a really, really cool moment. That's when Liam and I met, and we've pretty much been friends ever since.
Was there any discussion of some of the work he did with David Bowie at all? I have to ask.
I don't recall anything being brought up about Bowie at that point.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, Roger Dean's work is actually very interesting. That's a nice answer. I like that a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Since I've seen Roger Dean I go on these progressive rock cruises every once in a while, and he's been a guest on them a couple of times. So I've had a chance to relive that dinner with him on a couple of occasions, and he brings some amazing original art to do a gallery show on board the ship, and it's a cool deal.
So, Joe, we have a question from the audience. They asked, what does the future of Free Comic Book Day look like? Fast forward another 20 years, what's the same? What's different? And on top of that, is there any plans to incorporate NFTs with Free Comic Book Day?
I don't know of any plans to include NFTs. For me, comics are really a tactile kind of a thing. It's have it in your hand, move from panel to panel at the pace you want. Let the story and the voices of the characters kind of resound in your head a little bit, and let the art just kind of absorb. I'm not sure where NFT plays into that. What a Free Comic Book Day looks like 20 years from now. Well, I wish I could tell you, but I hope that 20 years from now, when it's the first Saturday in May, I'll be sitting on a beach somewhere. I'm not getting any younger here.
Well, hopefully it's after I've cornered the market on Midnight One.
Yeah.
You're in the Smooth Night One market, dude.
I know.
Oh man.
I'll keep printing them for you there, David. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Kim, I have a question for you that's a little off comic related, but you have any Gretzky rookie cards?
I don't have any Gretzky rookie cards. I had some years ago. Late 80s type time frame. Problem was with those, there's a lot of counterfeit ones out there.
Yep.
And so the market kind of got cold on Gretzky, not because of demand, but just because people were afraid they were going to get taken. And I actually got taken in Las Vegas because this was before anybody realized that there was Gretzky, fakes out there. And I traded a Michael Jordan rookie, and I forget, there was something else to get the Gretzky. And so I kind of took a bath on that one. So anyway, I had some, but I had probably 2 or 3 at one point, basically for sale. I was going to keep one for myself, and I never actually did. So Bobby Orr was my guy growing up. So I love Gretzky too, but Bobby Orr was my childhood hero. So
Gotcha. I want to ask about Jordan just himself. Do you know what a PSA 9 or 10 is currently going on the market for right now?
I don't even want to know.
I really don't think you want to, but yeah, man, that's interesting. Are there any current cards that you still own, or more just you kind of liquidated?
When I had the shop, I had a lot. I still have quite a few Manels and stuff, and some of the stuff I like. George Brett was my favorite player as a kid, and actually my son's named after him. And I've got some George Brett rookies, a 75 Topps mini set, a regular set. I mean, I've got some odds and ends stuff like that I've kept over the years, but most everything I've sold. What really breaks my heart is I had probably 4 or 5 Bobby Orr rookies when I was a kid. Not to mention pretty much all his cards and in quantity, but they worked so well in the bike spokes that, I didn't really care. I didn't care what they looked like. I just, having the cards was great, and I just stuck them back in a box. And so, I mean, I'd be retired now if I still had those darn things.
Yeah, it's funny because I have a lot of people who've told stories of just having Hank Aaron cards and all types of cards that were right on the bike spokes, and
Yep.
and it made a great noise.
Mm-hmm.
Willie Mays for me, and it's his birthday today, 91.
Nice.
Yeah, Willie. But the one card that I have hanging in that's up in my office is a 1940 play ball card. It's my great uncle who was a pitcher in the majors back then.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, he was a starting and losing pitcher in the first night game in Major League history.
Well, I'll be darned. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Wow. And I realized I asked you a question on top of another question, but I never answered your favorite artist question, Kim.
I didn't hear a word Joe was saying because I was trying to think back to when I was still in comic books. And you know what? I mean, obviously, Todd, I always liked his artwork, just because it's so splashy and spectacular. But the guy I really liked was Dale Keown. He did Pit. Do you remember that name?
Yeah, I love Dale Keown.
I liked his work. Jim Lee obviously was excellent as well. But I kind of like some of the guys that they were part of it, but they weren't like the big names. Remember Stephen Platt?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I liked his work too. So I would say those two and Todd were probably my 3 favorites.
Those Moon Knights that Stephen Platt did are pretty expensive books now.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm sure they are. Yeah, he was good. He was really good.
He also had this way with his pen when he did those Moon Knights. If anybody wants to take a look at it, you should find it online. But he kind of had this scratchy way with it that's just strictly him. I've never seen anybody be able to copy it.
Mm-hmm.
They were really sensational when they came out because Moon Knight sold like a turkey, and then he comes on the scene and everybody wants it, and it became sort of like an instant $25 book. It was crazy. But I think he was only on it for like 5 or 6 issues.
Wow. Yeah, and then I do want to ask, is there anything that the two of you guys are currently into collecting at this current point in time now?
I'll let Kim go first.
I'm not really into anything from like, comic books or sports cards or any of that kind of thing anymore. I mean, having done the business, it kind of, I shouldn't say take the fun out of it, but it made it more of a business for me at the time. And I still mess around, looking at old cards, that sort of thing. But I have pretty much everything I want, and it's pretty limited to what I want. So to answer your question, I really don't collect anything right now.
Okay.
And for me, what happened, I had a pretty decent comic book collection and a decent card collection when I first opened the store 34 years ago. But what I understood about business at that point was that I couldn't really add to the collection without being able, if I was going to serve my customers, I was going to have to turn off my collecting habit and serve them better. So I didn't add really any comics to my collection. But at that point, I thought, you know what, I'll just, I can collect something else. And so I started to do some original art. And I haven't added to that because it's gotten so expensive. But I have some really nice pieces. One of them is the very first page of Jack Kirby and Stan Lee I ever read when I was 11 years old. I've got
nice.
a splash page to Fantastic 465. It hangs in my office. And then I have a classic cover that I always liked when I was a kid, which is the Avengers versus the Invaders with the Eiffel Tower in the background. Avengers 71 by Sal Buscema and Sam Granger. That's hanging in my office. So I've got some other stuff too. I have several Jim Lee pages. I've got at least one page of Will Spertasio. I've got some John Romita Sr. I got a John Romita Jr. commission that he did for me years ago. There's, so I turned off adding to my comic book collection, but I sort of became a little bit of a collector of original art.
Okay, so you're chasing more, not even chasing, but you're more into the original pieces now.
I'm not chasing anything now. It's if anything comes to me, great. But like I say, that part of my collecting has gotten way too expensive. So I'm happy to add little things every once in a while in my sketchbook, but most of those tend to be asking guests of the store or guests here to just do a quick sketch of the mascot character we have at Flying Colors. So that's kind of fun.
Nice, that's nice, and that'd be an interesting sketchbook to see. I have to say.
Well, it's at some point I'm going to start sharing some of the stuff. I've got I added other stuff to it, so I've got some decent stuff. I've got before we had the mascot character for the store, I would have artists just do quick sketches of a character wearing a Flying Colors T-shirt. So Conan artist Ernie Chan said Conan can't wear a T-shirt, and so he's got a Flying Colors T-shirt hoisted on a sword with Conan holding it, and I've got John Byrne doing She-Hulk. That's a pretty cool one. I've got the Archie character. I've got all kinds of stuff like that, but that stuff now goes back about 30 years.
Wow, that's definitely some interesting stuff. Yeah, I mean, if anybody else doesn't have any questions for you guys, I mean, we really appreciate you taking all the time out of your evening and out of your day. Especially
it's been amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you guys have any final thoughts you want to leave the audience with?
Mm-hmm.
For anyone who's listening, get out there to Free Comic Book Day and support your local comic shop.
Boom.
I will
Absolutely.
echo what Joe says. It's very important, and you're doing a great job with that, and you should be proud of it.
Oh,
Thank
there
you.
you go, guys. The
There you
OG
go.
spoke. You
The
have to do it.
OGs have spoken.
I-
Appreciate you guys spending your time coming over here, honestly.
Yep.
All right.
Thanks for having us.
Good talking with you, Kim. It's been too long.
Hey, you take care. Good luck with
Okay.
the business. I'm glad to see you're still rocking and rolling.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.
All right.
Take
Thank you
care.
so much.
All right, everyone. Have a good night.
You
Take
too.
care.